Happy Sunday, everyone. May the 4th be with you. I wanted to give an update in regards to my case this week, even though I did a small live on Friday morning before I went into the courthouse. But I want to give a full update on what happened in that hearing on Friday, May 2nd. But before we get into that, I want to talk about 3 national movements that I'm taking part in, as well as a national protest that is being organized across our country. So first, we're going to talk about Children's Court with Phoenix Chi Rising and Stand with Meg. This is a mass habeas corpus filing that's going to be happening across our country. Children's Court, Phoenix Chi Rising, and Stand with Meg are heading this. And this is where all of us that have had our liberties violated by the states, the judges, the general magistrates, the guardian ad litems, whomever, if they violated any of your liberties, you can file a habeas corpus, a writ of habeas corpus in the state that violated your liberties as a U.S. citizen. So I will be filing a writ of habeas corpus in the state of Illinois that stole my children from me, put a gag order on me, violating my First Amendment, as well as violating due process. So Illinois violated multiple of my liberties, and then Florida is continuing to violate my liberties as a U.S. citizen. So I will also be filing a writ of habeas corpus in the state of Florida in the appellate court. We are all triggering to do this at the same time. So there is a mass habeas corpus filing across the nation, almost all simultaneously. And then we are going to continue to be in touch with each other and keep each other up to date on what's happening with our individual habeas corpuses. And then we are going to be moving it up to federal. But the law states that we have to exhaust it with the state first before we can do a federal habeas corpus. So we are going to be triggering habeas corpuses across the nation. The next movement that's currently happening simultaneously with that is Tanawah Downing is traveling across the nation collecting 500,000 affidavits, and he is taking that to Washington, D.C. between June 7th to 9th. I will be linking all of these people's websites on my YouTube as well as here on Facebook after this video. And then finally, the third movement that I am a part of is a 5-minute video submission with Family Court Fraud Warrior Project with Dave Weigel. And he will be, his whole team will be stitching those 5-minute videos together to create a documentary. And then that is going to be streamed everywhere. So it's literally gathering people's stories from across the nation and then stitching it all together as one big documentary. As far as me personally, I am going to be going on several different podcasts to tell my story with some established podcast creators, such as Slam the Gavel, Marianne Petrie. So I'm going to be going on her podcast in the upcoming week to start telling my story, and I will most definitely be joining her again after this initial one. And then I am also going to be launching my own podcast called Disrupt the Corrupt. So I'm basically taking the same concept that Slam the Gavel is, which is exposing family court corruption, exposing CPS corruption, child trafficking through CPS, and giving not only myself a platform to tell my story to the masses, but also to give others a platform to tell their story. There has been, through social media, we have all been connecting with each other across the nation, including Canada. And it has become very obvious that my story, my children and I story, is not unique. This is absolutely everyone's story that has had issues with family court corruption. And then today, I had someone reach out to me. I'm not going to say her name yet because we're still working on this, but I had someone that's been following my story and everyone else's story, reach out to me today to get my opinion on what I thought about a nationwide protest and getting that organized. And this is something that I've actually been thinking about for weeks now. This is something that I honestly think needs to happen along with these movements. And it honestly is going to get the most media attention. We need to get the media to start covering this. This is not something that the media, mainstream media, can continue to ignore, especially with these movements that we're doing across the nation. The media needs to start paying attention because we are getting louder by the day. I am getting louder by the day. So we are tentatively, I shouldn't say tentative, we've already set the date in stone. The nationwide protest is going to be at all state capitals and all major cities Sunday, June 8th. 2025, which is on National Children's Day for the U.S. Yes, it was chosen on that day for a reason, but also that's also the weekend that Tanawah Downing is going to be in D.C. I am actually working with a friend of mine. She approached me this morning on asking if I wanted to go to D.C. with her, and this is something that I actually reached out to Tanawah Downing about back on April 25th. So I am working on scheduling a Washington, D.C. trip for that protest. So I will be protesting in our U.S. Capitol. Not the Capitol building, guys. We need to stay clear of the U.S. Capitol building for obvious reasons in our past. So we are going to start getting the word out about this national protest that we're organizing. We want to have someone from every state be a main point of contact to make sure people know where to go, what city to go to. That website is being created as I speak, and we will get that information out as soon as that website is up and running. But nationwide protest Sunday, June 8th on National Children's Day to raise awareness to family court corruption, CPS corruption, child trafficking by means of CPS, kidnapping children, also known as state-sanctioned kidnapping of children. So we've got 3 massive movements happening across our country by multiple different nonprofits, by women and men, fathers, mothers, grandparents, aunts, uncles. We're all tired of our government stealing our children and walking all over our constitutional rights. We're tired of it, and we're going to start using our voice. So protest June 8th, nationwide, all state capitals and all major cities like downtown Chicago instead of Springfield, or Springfield and downtown Chicago, Tallahassee and Orlando. We need to get the word out about this protest. This needs to happen. I feel very strongly about freedom of speech and our First Amendment because I had a gag order slapped on me by Christopher Morosin of Illinois Circuit 19 from 2020 to 2023. So you better believe I'm going to start using my voice because no one should ever have their First Amendment taken away for any reason. No one. That is our God-given right as humans. So I'm going to be working on that D.C. trip for raising awareness and joining in the nationwide protest. But we are going to now shift to talking about Friday. Friday, I had a hearing with Judge Sandra C. Upchurch at the Daytona Courthouse. That hearing was on my motion to vacate the general magistrate's recommendations to Upchurch that she just signed make it so without even clearly reading my all of my evidence. That is just overwhelming at this point. It is absurd that this woman keeps signing denials on everything and not reading it because she's messing with the wrong mom here. I plan on getting her put in jail. I'm not stopping until there is accountability for what these people are doing to my children and I. I'm not going to stop. So I'm going to read my prepared opening statement, and then we'll explain what happened after that. So I had this prepared the night before, so Thursday night I wrote this up, and a few of my friends helped me critique it. So thank you. You know who you are that helped me critique this. There were several of you. So I said to her in the courtroom, with Justin Serlick present, Ira Serlick present, Mary Serlick present, Laura Stiles present. She has no reason to be in my family court case against my ex-husband, but yet there she was. And then Pete was present, and then my domestic violence advocate, Dana of Survivor Center, was present to support me. And then, of course, the court reporter, Paulita Cundid, that was doing my card services, Judge Upchurch, and then the bailiff. Okay, so those were everybody that was in the courtroom listening to me say this into the microphone. Your Honor, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I initiated this case on August 7th, 2023, with the purpose of challenging the validity of an April 27th, 2022 order issued in the state of Illinois. That order unlawfully reserved my parental rights to my 4 minor children. At the time of that unlawful order, Illinois no longer had jurisdiction under the Uniform Child Custody Jurisdiction and Enforcement Act, also known as UCCJEA. Specifically, my 3 younger children, Thomas, Bianca, and Charles Serlick, had been residing in Florida continuously since August 13th, 2021. By February 13th, 2022, Florida had exclusive jurisdiction as the children's home state under the UCCJEA rules. Therefore, the April 2022 Illinois order was entered without proper jurisdiction, and I intend to file a writ of habeas corpus in Illinois challenging that order as unconstitutional and in violation of my due process rights. Since April 13th, 2021, I have been denied all contact with my children due to the actions of their father, Justin Serlick, who has obstructed communication and access despite my persistent efforts to reunite with them. As a result, I have lost 5 critical years of parenting. One of my children has already aged out, and another is at risk of doing so without adequate education or support. I fear for their well-being and future. And that's my son, Thomas. He turns 18 this year, has a 1.0 GPA for 3 years now. So basically 17, about to turn 18 with an 8th grade education. I am a qualified and trusted professional in the state of Florida. I have been employed by Volusia County Schools as a public school teacher. I was selected and onboarded as a guardian ad litem volunteer for Florida's 7th Judicial Circuit. And I have recently undergone interviews with the Florida DCF for a child protective investigator role. Each of these roles confirmed my passing of level 2 background checks, affirming I have no criminal history and I'm fully eligible to work with children. If the state of Florida deems me fit to care for and advocate for vulnerable children in the public interest, it is unreasonable and unjust that I am still being denied any and all contact with my own biological children. It is well known that there is a legal activity involved in my case behind the scenes with Michael G. Nurheim of Illinois Circuit 19. I have filed the evidence into my docket of the off-channel ex parte communications between him and Florida Circuit 7, which violates UCCJEA and federal laws. The longer my children are illegally kept from me, the more I will be seeking in monetary damages from all parties involved in keeping my children from me these past 5 years. All parties involved, between Illinois, Florida, the guardian ad litems, the attorneys, the judges, the foster parents, Mary and Iris Serlick, Justin Serlick, Laura Stiles, anyone that is coming between my children and I will be part of my civil suit. So if you played any role whatsoever, Elizabeth Tevis, Kayla Davis, Scott Cox, Camelot Care.
Going a little bit off the script.
You will all be in my civil suit. Okay? I fully intend to file a writ of habeas corpus here in Florida as well regarding what Florida Circuit 7 is doing to my children and I. I will be filing writs for my children as well, because I can do that. Actually, anybody can file a writ of habeas corpus. Just have to file it on someone's behalf. But for minors, it's called as a friend. There's a specific term for it. But I absolutely will be filing writs of habeas corpus for my children as well. Since I saw you last, January 8th, 2025, that's the last hearing where I actually saw Judge Sandra C. Upchurch. So we're now in May. So it's been five months. 5 months since I saw my actual judge last. And we're still no closer to anything because Justin, Mary, and Iris Serlick are paying her to keep my children from me. Illegal activity. Since I last saw you January 8th, 2025, I have received a police report that shows my son Thomas Serlick attempted suicide in Justin Serlick's care in Daytona. Justin Serlick concealed this fact from this court and myself. My children left me 3 separate voicemails on February 19th, 2025 that make it clear they want to see and speak to me. These voicemails can be conveyed as a cry for help from me. These voicemails are still on my phone, and I would like you to listen to them right now in court. Accordingly, I respectfully request that the court vacate the General Magistrate's recommendation, recognize the lack of jurisdiction in Illinois at the time of the April 2022 order immediate reunification measures, including supervised or neutral police station exchanges with Justin Serlick, and acknowledge the long-term and ongoing harm being done to my children by this prolonged and unnecessary separation. This is not only a legal matter, but a human one. My civil, constitutional, and parental rights are being denied as we speak. I am their mother. I am not a threat, and I am not going away. My children deserve their mother in their lives, and I respectfully ask this court to act in their best interests today. Thank you. So once I read that, Pete, what happened next?
The judge basically, this hearing was originally scheduled for 30 minutes. The judge basically said at the beginning she was going to give Heather 20 minutes and then she was going to give Justin 10 minutes to respond to anything Heather said. After Heather read her statement, the judge basically said, you still have another 14 minutes or whatever it was. And so Heather sort of asked a couple questions, asked if the judge had read what Heather had filed. The judge says, oh, yes, I've read everything. So Heather says, well, what questions do you have for me then? The judge's exact response was, I'm not here to answer questions. That's not my job. Mm-hmm.
And because of my CART services teleprompter, which they refused to give me the transcript for, even though the software gives the transcript, because I have the March 25th transcript, I took a picture. So that picture is going to be going on social media of what she said. But she literally said, I'm not here to answer questions today. That's not my job. Whose job is it then? The Governor DeSantis' job? Is it the governor's job to answer judicial questions then? If it's not the judge's job, whose judge is it?
Whose job? You're so worked up here.
What are we paying these judges to do then if it's not her job? Yeah, I'm worked up. Damn it, these are my children.
Anyways, so Heather then basically pulled out the copy of her response to the magistrate's order and started going through several of the points. pretty much used up her 20 minutes. Then it got turned over for Justin to respond. He was very clearly not really prepared with anything. He made a short statement with, vague information, and then pretty much said, he has nothing else to say. There were a couple things of note that, anybody that was in the court watching it should have picked up on, and hopefully the judge picked up on this. He made it clear, he verbally said, he doesn't have a problem with Heather seeing the kids. Of course, he wants it to be supervised by Florida DCF.
Yeah, because why would he give up his control over me? Because, guys, that is what this is all about. You want to know why this is happening. You want to know why Justin Serlick and Mary Serlick and Ira Serlick are withholding any and all contact between the children and I? It's control. They have the ultimate form of control over me as long as they can control and manipulate my children and I. As long as they have that thumb on my kids, they are still controlling me. So, of course, Justin Serlick is going to request that any and all communication be supervised with a non-Illinois DCFS. He wants Illinois DCFS to supervise my children when we are all citizens of Florida.
Yeah. So then the other thing...
Get out of your fantasy bubble, Justin. We're not in Illinois anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore, as they say.
So
we're in Florida now.
Yeah, the other thing...
Or your choice.
The other thing that speaks volumes is the silence that speaks volumes. Once again, in public, open court hearing, Heather directly stated that Justin was her rapist. Absolutely no response from Justin on that. So... ultimately, the hearing concluded. Justin only took a few minutes. He didn't take his whole time. So the judge then turns to Heather, says, "We've still got time. Is there anything else you want to say?" To be honest, it almost felt like the judge was trying to set Heather up or get her worked up over something. Heather actually did remarkably well.
Thank you, Dana.
even though
support really helps.
Obviously, when we first got to the courthouse and we saw Mary, Ira, and Laura Stiles walking in before us, knowing that Mary has been one of Heather's abusers for more than 20 years. Laura Stiles has been a stalker for the past 3 years. Laura Stiles, if you have followed any of Heather's story, was a roommate of Heather's for 2.5 months 3 years ago. Moved out. Heather moved on with her life. This lady then, for whatever sick reason, sought out Mary Serlick, Heather's ex-mother-in-law, became best friends with her, and now is actively trying to insert herself into Heather's child custody case. This lady is so clearly off her rocker. She actually showed up at my office the day after the last hearing and tried to create a scene. And I had to call the police to get her to leave. And so we saw them go in before us. Obviously, that's going to get Heather a little worked up. She made the last live video. You can watch that. Right
before we went in the courthouse, I made an announcement that Laura Stiles was there.
So,
the thing about Laura is she does not seem to recognize or realize that I know she's friends with people at the Daytona courthouse. She made the mistake of emailing me something after I was there on a Friday filing something. And I made a statement in the county of clerk's office, the little room there where you go to file your things into court. And something I said made its way to Laura Stiles, and then Laura Stiles emailed me it. So I know she's got friends there. And I know that's why Mary Serlick is all buddy-buddy with her now. Yeah. What you guys don't seem to recognize is that I will be turning around and using that as part of my civil suit. And I'll be suing Laura Stiles as well.
And whoever's
and
working in the clerk of the court's office,
oh yeah,
I'm
you're
sure
gonna be busted too.
the state attorney is going to be talking to you soon too.
Oh yeah, state attorney is
violating the public trust, violating privileges of employment.
Absolutely, the media is going to find out about it. The state attorney's office is going to find out about it. You better believe, as I get louder by the day, I'm going to be throwing names under the bus, and I know who I was talking to in that clerk's office that day. I have names. So it's only a matter of time before I start giving all the names of your little buddies at the Daytona courthouse. But here's the most telling part. As we were leaving Friday, Mary, Laura, Ira wave to Judge Upchurch. Wave. Goodbye. They waved to her. Yeah, you guys aren't friends? Not at all. Come on. You guys are going to prison. You realize this, right? You guys are going to prison. If it's the last thing I do, the whole world is going to know what you guys are doing to my children. My children are victims of your illegal behavior that you're taking part in just to hurt me. They are victims of it. You realize this, right? You are hurting my children way more than you are hurting me at this point. My children are victims of all of you. All right, so we left. So Upchurch basically said the same typical crap.
She's
I'm going to have to
reread everything,
reread your motion to vacate, and obviously nothing has been filed yet. I don't have a denial or anything. It'll probably show up tomorrow. So we left after. When I walked in there, I gave the deputies a heads up that Laura Stiles had charged at me in the courthouse on January 8th and was shouting at me outside of courtroom number 9. So when we walked in, knowing that Laura Stiles was there, I spoke to the deputies before we even went up to the 3rd floor and said, I want this woman to stay away from me. I don't want her anywhere near me. I do not want her speaking to me. She has no reason to be here other than to stalk me. And this needs to be made aware of ahead of time. So they had radioed up to courtroom number 9, Upchurch's courtroom. They had Mary, Ira, and Laura go off to the very far corner. So they were in the courtroom, but all the way in the corner, which was fine. They were in my deaf ear, so I couldn't hear any of their stupid, childish shenanigans they were trying to pull.
There was at least one point where they were snickering or something, because it caught both mine and our friend Dana's attention, and we both sort of turned our heads.
So, they are clearly, and other people are now witnessing it, trying to disrupt me, catch my attention, irritate me, whatever, and it's just going right over my head at this point, because I'm just going to use my voice and put their names out there to the world, and the internet can take care of them. I have bigger fish to fry than Mary Serlick and Laura Stiles at this point. They're just a distraction. Anyway, so the deputies have them leave first. We stay in the courtroom. Dana, Pete, and I stay in the courtroom. Then we leave the courtroom after they leave the courthouse. And then the deputies give us the radio okay that they've left the property. And then Dana, Pete, and I leave the courthouse and go out to our cars. We had a little conversation outside the courthouse steps, and then went our separate ways. Yeah. So that was Friday. Yesterday.
Was interesting.
Yeah, yesterday was very eye-opening, to say the least, for Pete and I both. I already knew that what Illinois did to my children and I was not normal procedure. I knew from the moment my children were kidnapped from Kitty Cottage Daycare with no court order, no name badge, no business card, nothing identifying herself that she worked for Illinois DCFS at all. I knew from the moment she collected my children from Kitty Cottage Daycare, they were being kidnapped. I knew it. So that moment forward, I knew something was very, very wrong with my children and I's situation. But yesterday proved to Pete and I, my intuition this last 5 years is absolutely 100% accurate.
So I'll sort of step in here and sort of explain what we were doing. So me and Heather are sort of starting our own personal new adventure, but as part of that, we were in a training class pretty much all day yesterday. This training class, some of the subjects it covered a lot of what happens with children that get pulled into the system and how the system here in Florida works, and what the ultimate goal is, and how all of the players are supposed to work together. Back in, was it like between 2008 and 2011, the Florida
and California, it's called QPI.
Yeah, basically
Quality Parenting Initiative or something like that.
So basically, they looked at the DCF and foster parent system and the court, family court system. They got voices from all of these components: guardian ad litems, attorneys, judges, everybody that's involved. And they said, the system that we've got is not working. You've got, one hand not talking to the other hand. You've got these people working under their own procedures that doesn't correspond with these other ones. So they got together and they basically built a new system. Okay, the system has two goals. Obviously, first, protect the children. The other primary goal, and I can't tell you how many times this specific word was used. And
reunification, reunification with the custodial parents. Over and over and over again, we were getting slapped in the face with that word.
And why that's so striking is, some of you may know, a few months ago, me and Heather basically sat down. We spent a couple weeks, every night, going through literally thousands of emails and court documents, everything she had, recorded, saved in her email
since
inbox.
The moment my children were kidnapped from me.
Text messages, voicemail messages. I mean, we went through everything. And it is so apparent when you actually look at the totality of how Heather and her children were separated in Illinois, and how the system in Illinois did absolutely everything in their power to make it impossible for Heather to meet the requirements that they kept moving and changing, so that there could ever be a chance of reunification. The system in Illinois is the way it worked in Heather's case. It's
designed to sever the bond with the biological parents. And the training class we were in yesterday was so polar opposite. It's talking about the foster parents actually being there with the biological parents, and if the foster parents need to go on a vacation or something, they are to put it in a request 30 days ahead of time so it doesn't interfere with the visitation with the biological parents, so it doesn't sever the bond. I mean,
they're supposed to, all of the parties.
The foster parents are not allowed to take, if the biological parents provide cell phones to their children so they can communicate, the foster parents are not allowed by law. They are not allowed to take those cell phones away. Yeah. The foster parents can provide their own cell phones to the children in their care, and they can take those away as a form of punishment.
They cannot
touch the property that belongs to the biological parents.
Well, they can have a house rule that says all the phones have to be put up at a certain time.
But they cannot take away
the communication.
The communication between the children and their biological parents if there are cell phones that do exist. However, in my children's case, those cell phones, my cell phones, were taken away from my children October 13th of 2020. They disappeared off the planet, and I lost any communication with my children October 13th, 2020. And they were kidnapped from me October 8th of 2020.
So then the another thing that was striking that we learned, when the Children Protective Services get involved here in Florida, the parents may be assigned, a set of tasks and requirements that they have to meet. They do not have to meet all of them to have visitation with their children.
And they don't even need to have all of them to have their children come back and have the case closed. No. The children just, whatever the issue was where the children were removed, if it was a safety concern, that safety concern needs to be non-existent, and then they can go back. Now, if it was something like drugs, well, then the parent needs to go through the steps to get the drugs out of the equation.
Go through a treatment program.
Exactly.
But they can...
But drugs were not part of my situation. No. It was strictly housing issues during a global pandemic. And that was the one and only reason my children were kidnapped from me in Illinois.
And the fact that your ex-husband told the investigator you had mental health issues.
Right.
If you had any mental health issues, first of all, he has no documentation of that. But if you had any, they were fully 100% caused by him.
Mm-hmm. Then Illinois took Justin Serlick's testimony on October 13th, 2020, telling Judge Christopher Morosin, oh yeah, Your Honor, mom went crazy. She's an unfit mother. And his intent was hopefully to get Judge Morosin to say, okay, well then the kids can go down to Florida and live with you. But that's not what happened. What happened instead is Justin told Christopher Morosin that day, Judge Christopher Morosin, that I'm an unfit mother, and then they proceeded to child traffic my children. Now, how do I know this is what happened? When I hired my attorney, Thomas Hunter, and I told Thomas Hunter what Justin Serlick told Judge Morosin on October 13th, 2020, Thomas Hunter's immediate response was, that is a dangerous game Justin is playing, because the judge could very well make the kids wards of the state and then turn around and adopt them, and then neither one of you will ever see the kids again.
And that came very
close to happening. I am still thoroughly, especially after our training yesterday, I am thoroughly convinced that if Justin Serlick did not put in a court order to order the children shipped down to him in 2021, they would still be in the system in Illinois to this day. Everyone would still be making money off of my children to this day. Guardian ad litems, Elizabeth Tevis of Camelot Care, Scott Cox of Camelot Care, Kayla Davis, Kathleen McGee, the attorneys, everyone would be making money off of my kids, and then they would eventually be sold, which is adopted out. Yeah. Because Illinois gets kickbacks every time they adopt out a kid, and then, the agencies get kickbacks from Illinois, and then Illinois gets kickbacks from the federal government. So there is a monetary bonus. It's literally a bonus that these states get by kidnapping our children, finding a reason to keep the kids in the system, and then selling them, aka adopting them out. Yeah. So more they adopt out kids, they need to replenish those kids, so they kidnap more, they adopt more out, and then thus the cycle continues. Yeah. Thus why we've got 3 national movements that I'm aware of, that I'm participating in, and a nationwide protest.
And so on that note, because we've hit you with a lot of information, so Heather's going to just run through those 3 national movements again real quick, and then we're going to bid you farewell so you can get on with your rest of your Sunday evening. So
share the word about these movements, share the word about this nationwide protest. Please, please, please share this information. Even if it does not involve you specifically, if these movements and this protest does not directly affect you, I promise you that it affects a family member,
somebody you know,
a friend you know, a colleague you know. 1 in 3 children in this country are illegally stolen from their parents. Think about that. The statistic as of right now in 2025, 1 in 3 children will be removed from a loving parent for no reason other than the state's trying to monetize and profit off of our children. U.S. children.
Or an abusive parent is trying
using
to
the system,
use the system
to hurt the other parent. 1 in 3 children. So even if this does not directly affect you, please share this. And if not my videos, share the other websites I'm about to share with you. Share the meme that we're creating and going to get out in regards to nationwide protest June 8th. But again, Children's Court with Phoenix Kai Rising and Stand with Meg are doing a mass habeas corpus filing across the country. We're trying to trigger it all at the same time to flush out the bad actors. That information can be found on childrenscourt.org. They're on the Facebook. Stand with Meg is on TikTok. You can find either of these ladies, Phoenix Kai Rising, Stand with Meg, Meg Stand, Children's Court. The links will be in my YouTube link. Then we've got Tanawah Downing. He's currently traveling across the country. He was just in Chicago a few weeks ago, collecting 500,000 affidavits to take to D.C. June 7th to 9th. His website is Tanawah, TANAWAH.com, or Tanawah Downing on Facebook. I'll post his link as well. Then we've got the 5-minute video, 3 to 5 minute video submissions with the Family Court Fraud Warrior Project with Dave Weigel. That will be stitching together videos to create a long documentary. So that is a Facebook page and his Facebook group. Then we've got, which is just being organized as of today, so the details will be out shortly, but the date and the actual places are going to remain the same. So Sunday, June 8th, 2025, there is going to be a nationwide protest at each state capital and at every major city. If you are going to go to D.C. or if you're in the D.C. area, stay away from the U.S. Capitol building. We all know why we should be staying away from the U.S. Capitol building. That shouldn't even need to be said why. Political, we're not getting into left versus right. This has nothing to do with politics, but please stay away from that U.S. Capitol building. Let's respect our nation's buildings. This is to be a peaceful protest. This is not to turn violent in any way, even though what these people have done to our children and our families is, of course, incredibly hurtful. We need to keep this peaceful. We want to show the world that we are better than the people walking all over our constitutional rights, right? We want to show the world that we're better than them.
Rights.
And then I'm going to be working on possibly traveling with my friends to D.C. for that protest. If I do not make it to D.C. for this nationwide protest, I will be in Tallahassee. So if you are in the state of Florida, on Sunday, June 8th, and I'm not in D.C., you will be able to find me in Tallahassee that day. So please join me if you're in the state of Florida. So I'm going to leave it at that. Please share this with media. Mainstream media needs to be aware of this nationwide protest that we're organizing. Mainstream media needs to be aware of these movements that are being created by all these amazing people that are dedicating their life to this cause and uniting all of us victims of these corrupt elected officials, appointed officials that are playing God with our families, our children, our lives. They are walking all over us like we're not even human, like we're not U.S. citizens. We do not have rights according to them, according to their thought process. So we need to start unifying together and raising awareness to what these people are doing to us. We cannot stay silent. Silence is no longer an option. We need to start coming together and raising awareness. So on that note, have a great rest of your Sunday. Look for my YouTube and the links in the YouTube for all these amazing people that are putting together these movements. As they pick up momentum, we are spreading the word across the nation and all over the globe. So help bring awareness to all of these movements and this nationwide protest. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everyone, and see you on the side.